In this video, we're going to go through the setup mode and procedure of the Flight Data Systems FC-10 fuel computer. Before you begin, it's pretty much mandatory that you download the instructions. Particular attention to the setup section here that you'll reference these items here for what's on the screen to tell you what you are changing, which is over here in the description and the items being set. So I've got that sitting here for reference, right, ready to go, and we'll move the unit into setup mode by pressing and holding the set button. Until the 3/8 appear. Once the 3/8 appear, we are in setup mode. Once you see a flashing icon there, in this case we have flow flashing, so we reference our instructions. The instructions say flow is fuel units. 0 is for gallons, 1 is for liters. We want gallons. So the left button always decreases, the right button always increases. So we want 0 for gallons. That's set, and then once we're done setting that, we hit the set button to move to the next item. And now we see RESV flashing, and we reference the instructions, and that says we're setting distance units. 0 is nautical miles, 1 for statute miles, and 2 for kilometers. So we could increase it here and decrease it here. We'll leave it at 0 for nautical miles, then press set to get to the next item. LR, so when it says LNR, pulses per gallon times 100. So this is where you're going to set the number that corresponds to the type of fuel flow transducer you have. In this case, we're going to be using the Electronics International Red Cube FT60, and per the instructions, 680 is what you set here. The other numbers for the other transducers are in the instructions. We're not going to change that, so let's move to the next item for the K factor, L. So it's L100. This is the left transducer K factor. So you're going to set this value in percent. So it's either going to increase or decrease. And once you find the number you want, and that is also covered in the instructions how to compute that, a totally separate item. You get that where you want it, and then you hit set to move to the right transducer. Now, if you only have a single transducer in your system, which is most common, you won't change anything here, and even if you were to change something here, it won't affect anything since nothing's connected to that transducer. All right, moving to the next item, we use the set button. It says used. Used is the fuel tank size in gallons. So even if you're going to use liters later, you have to set your tank size in gallons one time. In this case, we have a 40-gallon tank or more or less. Let's say we had a 37-gallon tank, and we're happy with that. We would hit set, and now that's set. Moving on to efficiency, that corresponds to the number of engines or in your aircraft. So if you have a single engine plane, you would decrease that to 1. If you have a twin, you would set it at 2. Now, if you have a fuel return transducer in your single engine installation, you would also use 1 because this is always the number of engines. So we'll leave that at 1. Moving to the next item with the set button, we see GPS flashing. So this is where you set the type of GPS that's connected to the instrument. If you don't have a GPS, it doesn't matter what you set here. You can ignore it and move to the next item. If you do have one, there's a table in the instructions where you would pick the type of GPS you have. You're going to choose your type of GPS here that corresponds to the table of the instructions, and then once you have it where you want it, hit set to move on to the next item. Warn is what you're setting a number of minutes at which the warn icon will display to warn you you're becoming low on fuel. In this case, we have the warn icon appearing at 30 minutes. You could increase that or decrease it with the outside and inside buttons. Once you have it where you want it, again, hit the set button, move to the next item. Now it says REQD, and that's your fuel flow response rate. So if you feel that the unit is responding too slowly to fuel flow changes, you would increase this. And if it's responding too fast, if it's jumpy, you would decrease this. Generally speaking, you want to use 0 with a carbureted engine, and if you have a fuel-injected engine, you can increase this to the point where it's still steady. You can experiment with this in flight. Okay, so now we've set everything, but this is the most important part. We hit set again, we see the 3/8, and we're back in regular operating modes. If you don't go all the way through and hit set and hit see the 3/8 at the end, it won't save any of the changes that you made. All right, that completes the video. Thank you.